Great, a new trend makes women feel bad about themselves. Hello everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. I make videos to inspire you to be the star of your own life. Today I want to talk about skinny talk and pro-toxic diet culture content and the return of the skinny at all costs trend. I have to be very careful how I word some of this stuff because ironically, it's not a problem to push content that actually is promoting eating disorders, but if you mention eating disorders on, say, like TikTok or something like that, your video gets like the irony. I've been noticing this huge trend in the return of the skinny at all costs trend, and as someone who lived through the 90s and the heroin chic look and then the early 2000s of like literally body shaming women who were a completely normal healthy size, I'm seeing the trend happen again and I really want to address it. And it's also been a while since I've done any kind of like body image videos on here, and I have videos talking about body image, fitness, health, some of my fitness journey, which I'll get into a little bit in this video, and videos about women gaining weight as a masculine shield, femininity and body image and body shape and things like that. So I have other videos on this channel. I do actually have a playlist. It's kind of like body image, body confidence and stuff if you want to get into those videos. But I just thought it was time to talk about this topic again because it's starting to pop up on my For You page on TikTok, and I'm starting to see more people talk about this, and I just think we need to address it because it is, whew, I feel like that person trying to warn everybody about Godzilla, and I'm like, oh my god, there's danger coming, and people are like, no, it's not a big deal, and I'm like, no, literally, this is like dangerous. We need to stop this, and like nobody wants to listen, so let's talk about it. So if you're not familiar with some of this terminology, I'll give you just a general summary, but I know some of these words are kind of like trigger words on social media. Like skinny talk is like the part of TikTok where women are sharing tips on how to be skinny, and a lot of them are really, really dangerous advice. They paint it as health, and I'm gonna get into that, but it's not healthy. It's not a healthy mindset. A lot of it is not healthy behavior, and I'm gonna get into some of that. There's also what they call pro-Anna content, which Anna stands for anorexia, which is a word that you can't say on social media without getting everything like shut down, because like God forbid we talk about a disorder that affects a lot of women, especially at a time period where it's actually becoming a trend again to have that as an eating disorder. And like I said, as someone who lived through the 90s and the early 2000s and the body shame, as someone who suffered from body dysmorphia pretty much her whole life, also someone who was actually, I was a part of the body positivity movement at one point, and kind of want to explain a little bit about like why I left, how I think that the body positivity movement kind of paved the way for this dangerous new trend. Now, granted, women's bodies have been treated like a trend throughout history. Frankly, I think it's time we stop. I mean, we spend a whole lot of time fighting for women's rights in other areas. I really think it's time that we started fighting for women's bodies to not be treated like trends. But I think until women heal from their desperate need for approval from society, which I get it, like it's normal, it's natural, I've talked about this in other videos. Seeking approval is a human thing. It's not totally unusual. It's very much ingrained in us as women. A lot of this like skinny talk behavior is very much rooted in pick-me behavior, is like seeking approval from society. If you'd like to heal from that, I actually have the Recovering Pick-Me Girl Guided Journal. I do have a chapter in here about body image that can be really helpful, so I highly recommend you check this out if you feel like you're sinking into some of that. For starters, in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about like my background and why I know what I'm talking about when I talk about this kind of stuff, because I know I'm going to get pushback from people like, you're just upset because you're not skinny, and like I know I'm going to get crap from people about that. If you've been following me for a long time, you've probably heard me talk about this stuff before, but in case you're new or newer to my channel, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about me and like my body image journey. I started having body image issues literally as early as 4 years old. I feel like my earliest memory is of looking in the mirror when I was about 4 and rubbing my belly and thinking I was fat. Not a normal thing for a 4-year-old to think, but that's just literally been my life. And I basically did that for the next 40 years of my life. So I still catch myself doing that. So this has been a lifelong struggle for me. I tried my first fad diet when I was 8 years old. I was a lifetime member of Weight Watchers at age 11. I lost about 20-25 pounds, which is a lot when you're like 10. And then I hit puberty and gained it all back. And like my weight has gone up and down over the years. Have gone back to Weight Watchers and lost a significant amount of weight a couple times in the course of my life. I'm conflicted about my experience with Weight Watchers because it was not all positive and it was not all negative. Like, I was in it before, like, they did their famous point system, and then I did it with the point system, and I kind of was with it when they were kind of transitioning to different systems, because it was, I mean, literally starting as a child until an adult. They didn't even have the internet when I started doing it, which is like really weird. I do think that I used it at times to justify essentially having an eating disorder. I grew up in a time period where the only eating disorders that were ever discussed were anorexia and bulimia. That was it. Like, you either had anorexia, so you didn't eat anything ever, or you had bulimia, so you binged and then you purged. That was it. And if you didn't fit into one of those two categories, you weren't considered to have an eating disorder, which in hindsight is so crazy, because my relationship with food was horrific. Starting as a child, I had a horrible relationship with food. I had a horrible relationship with my body, the way I treated my body. And so the idea that I didn't fit into the category of an eating disorder, so nobody was really like helping me. And if anything, my eating disorder was being enabled because it was considered healthy. Let's just say I have firsthand experience knowing when people are pushing health when it's actually an eating disorder, because I've been there. I've been there like as a child. I've had binge eating disorders since I was a kid. It's a learned behavior. I've suffered from food noise my whole life. If you're not familiar with food noise, it's like literally when food completely overtakes your thoughts. You can't really function because you're always thinking about food or some kind of food, or when I'm gonna get to eat again or something. Like, food kind of becomes such an obsession that you can't think about anything else. And I suffered from that my whole life. Like, I never knew a life where I didn't have that. I did lose a significant amount of weight, like about 65, 70 pounds when I was in my early 20s. And that was a unique experience for me because I had always been like the fat, funny friend. I was always treated like the, you know, like the funny girl or whatever, or like I was the, it's such a shame, she has such a pretty face, but like I was never like the girl that guys wanted to date. I would get dates sometimes, but usually with guys who just wanted to take advantage of me because they thought, like, I mean, my self-esteem was in the gutter, so I wasn't like in good relationships or anything. I had lost a lot of weight, and I experienced kind of my mid-20s as being kind of like what society would consider to be skinny, and then I gained some of that weight back. I didn't get overweight again. My weight kind of fluctuated, and I spent, I would say, like my late 20s and pretty much all of my 30s in this kind of like, I wasn't overweight, but I wasn't as skinny as I wanted to be, so I just felt generally bad about my body. Even though it wasn't unhealthy and I was very active and I ate very healthy, I just didn't feel good enough. And then when I got to my late 30s, I went through a lot, and I won't get into that because there's a lot of stuff, but I went through divorce and I went through a lot of big life changes and stuff at that time. And I really got obsessed with fitness and calorie counting and macro tracking, and like I like threw myself into fitness and health and diet culture. I just threw myself into that world, and to be honest, a lot of it was a coping mechanism for like what I was dealing with at the time, because the rest of my life is kind of falling apart, so it felt like something I had control over. And I got into this obsessive mentality of being like fit by 40, and I was like, ooh, on my 40th birthday I'm gonna be in the best shape of my life, and like that's gonna set me up for like the rest of my life, because 40 for some reason was like this big turning point for me. I did it. I absolutely did. I got myself into what I would consider like the best physical shape of my life at 40. I didn't do anything obviously dangerous to do it. I wasn't taking diet pills. I wasn't taking drugs. I wasn't, you know, using any kind of pharmaceuticals, or, you know, there were no surgeries or anything. Like, I wasn't doing anything like that was super like obviously dangerous. But in hindsight, I was restricting my eating so much. Like, looking back on it, I don't even know how I was functioning at such a low calorie amount. Like, my macros were so scarce. I had like no carbs and no sugar, and I was working out 4 times a day. A lot of people don't even work out 4 times a week. I was working out 4 times a day. I would do like an hour of like lifting in the morning, and then I would do 2 like 45-minute to an hour like treadmill cardio sessions like later in the day, once before lunch and once before dinner. And then usually before I went to bed, I would do like a yoga which was sometimes just a stretch, but sometimes it was pretty intense. So yeah, like 4 times a day. Weight fell off of me. I'll be honest, I love the way I looked. It was never quite good enough, because that's something that you learn when you go through this process. It's never good enough. It never gets to be enough, and I'm gonna get into that. But yeah, I never really felt like good enough. But I did love being thinner. It was so much easier to buy clothes. My body felt lighter. I mean, there were a lot of good aspects to it. There were also a lot of negative aspects to it. If I took a shower that was too warm, I would get really lightheaded and almost pass out. If I sat down for, not even for an extended period of time, but I just sat down for like a little while, when I would get up, like the whole room would start spinning. Like my blood pressure was so freakishly low that like sometimes when I would go to my doctor, they'd be like, are you even alive? Like, this is weird. But of course, nobody ever told me that that was a bad thing or anything like that. Like, it was all like, oh, you look great, you're wonderful, you're in such great shape. Like, everybody was like pushing it. Yeah, so it's ironic because I got myself into like the fittest shape of my life. That said, my body type is not meant to be skinny. I will never be skinny. These still get smaller, but they don't go away. And I'm all upper body. So like literally at my skinniest, and I'm talking like my skinniest, like I was having trouble sleeping because my hip bones were like literally like jutting out from me, so I couldn't get comfortable sleeping because I lost all like body fat around my hips and stuff. But like even like my absolute skinniest, I bought like a jacket or a blazer, I had to wear like a size 10 because like that's just literally how my body is built. It's ironic because getting to that size, that was actually, and if you've been following me for a while, you know the story of my Instagram, and that was actually when I started posting like selfies and things on Instagram, because I was really starting to look in the mirror and see my body as something that I liked, which was the first time in my entire life. And I was like 37, 38 years old. And it was the first time I could look in the mirror and actually be like, oh, I feel like I look good. Never thought that before. It's ironic because I got in on the body positivity movement, basically posting stuff. My audience, I was targeting women, basically being like, hey, I'm learning to love my body. I'm learning to feel good in my body. I started posting lingerie content. I was getting sent lingerie from different brands and things like that to like promote them, particularly like full or busted brands. It's obviously the category I was in. I mean, I was always creating the content for women. That was always my mentality. I wanted women to learn to feel good about themselves, to feel good in their bodies. And like, even at my thinnest, I still didn't have like your typical like Instagram model body with like the, you know, tiny little waist and like the big like wide hips and the big butt and stuff like that. Like, I have very narrow hips and a narrow butt, and I have a boxier waist. Like, that's just how I am. And again, getting into like the thinnest, fittest shape of my life, that's just how my body was. So, you know, I created content primarily for women, but of course the men came, and so that was a whole complication in itself. But I tended to have pretty positive reactions from people. The irony was, I was at the thinnest and fittest I've ever been in my life. I mean, granted, like if I wore a jacket or something, it was a size 10, but I was probably wearing a size like 8 or 6 breast size. My pants were probably like a 4 because I'm so much smaller on the bottom. I got called plus sized on Instagram at least once a day. I had plus size brands that were reaching out to me wanting me to promote their stuff, and like their clothing like started at a size 14, which, you know, obviously I'm like, you know, I would love to promote your stuff, but like, I don't wear your clothes. Like, I don't wear that size. That was how I was seen as a woman who was like, you know, a size like 6. It was like, oh, well, you must be plus sized. And those were the brands that wanted to work with me. And I would usually get the, oh, you're so beautiful even though you're plus size. Like, I'd get that like weird backhanded compliment, which is ironic because in my process of like healing from that, and I'll get into that in a minute, but in my process of healing from my eating disorder, and I did put on some weight and I did get to a size 14, I never heard from any of those brands. Nobody wanted to work with me. I just find it ironic that like plus size is acceptable if they're actually not plus size. But the minute a woman is actually plus sized, it's like, you don't find the plus size acceptable. It's just, it's the irony of life, right? And it's also the irony of being a part of the body positivity movement. And like, you know, around this time period this was happening, the body positivity movement was huge, no pun intended. I mean, there was always a lot of, I think, confusion about what body positivity meant. The irony of it is that body positivity should be about people feeling positive about their body and loving their body, whether it fits the traditional beauty standard or not. Like, that's what I always thought body positivity was. And that's what I always felt like I was promoting, is like, you know what, like, you don't have to look like the mainstream beauty standard in order to be loved, in order to love yourself. And of course, I had people that didn't think I should be a part of the body positivity movement because, you know, well, I have bleached blonde hair and I'm white and I, at the time, wasn't that big. And so it's like, well, you can't be a part of this movement. It's only supposed to be for people that fit some other category that I wasn't. And my argument was always like, look, I felt bad in my body. I'm trying to learn to love my body. I want women, either women that look like me or women that don't look like me. I don't look like the classic Instagram model. Like, I don't look like a Kardashian. I don't look like the modern standard of beauty right now. I want to show up, and I want women to know if you don't look like the current beauty standard, you don't check off all the boxes of the current beauty standard, you can still be beautiful. And I did really feel like I got a lot of messages from women that were really positive, and like the whole experience is really positive. I look back on that sometimes and I feel like I kind of missed that time period. But if I'm really being honest with myself, I was really torturing my body to look the way that I was looking, which isn't exactly body positivity. Now, I've never been somebody who is on board with like promoting obesity. I believe in living a healthy lifestyle. I always have. Even when I was in my binge eating sessions, like I would binge eat on like health foods. Like I don't eat junk food. I don't eat fast food. I've had those moments when I was younger, but you know, in my adult life, I've always prioritized eating healthy foods. When I would binge eat, it would usually be binge eating health food. It would just, I'd eat way too much of it. I won't get into all the details of my binge eating and stuff like that, but a lot of the binge eating that I was doing, that I was justifying, oh, it's emotional eating, oh, it's this, it's because I was hungry. I was starving myself. So when I would allow myself to eat like actual food, I would just stuff my face with it. And at the end of the day, looking back on it, I was hungry. Like I was starving myself. I was training like a pro athlete to try to keep myself in a certain body size, and I was hardly eating anything. So my body thought that I was in starvation. So when I did give it access to food, it was like, well, I gotta eat as much of it as I can now. And that's why I would lose control. And that's not to say that I do know that binge eating can come from emotional eating, and it's not to say I haven't experienced that at different points in my life, but realizing that my binge eating, particularly, you know, at this time period that I'm talking about, it was because I was hungry. I wasn't feeding myself. I wasn't letting myself eat. You know, that's when the binge would get really bad because, you know, at the end of the day, I was hungry and I was essentially starving myself. The body positivity movement for me, as much as I firmly believe in the message that I was sending at the time period, it did always feel a little unsettling because it did always feel like, even within the body positivity movement, it's like, well, you're not doing body positivity the right way, which to me felt counterintuitive. And I will admit during that time period, I wasn't doing the healthiest things with my body to make my body look the way that it was. But it always felt like if this is supposed to be a movement teaching women particularly to feel good about their body and feel good in their own skin, then why are we gatekeeping who gets to feel good in their own skin? I really started to have an issue with body positivity when I think the mainstream media took it over. And I firmly believe that this was strategic, and you can call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, but I believe that the body positivity movement was ruined when the mainstream media decided to hijack it, and I think it set it up for failure. This might be controversial and people might disagree with me, but I stand by this. The mainstream media, the magazine industry and things like that had an opportunity to support body positivity by putting women with like real natural bodies out there for everyone to see, and actually presenting women that were not just a size 0 and starving themselves. And I realize that there are some women out there who are naturally skinny and a size 0. The models on those magazines, the vast majority of them doing really unhealthy things to be that skinny. I stand by that. I've been in the entertainment industry long enough. I know that these women, even the women who are naturally skinny, are doing some really dangerous things to get that skinny. To promote body positivity, the mainstream media could have taken the option of like, hey, let's put a woman who's like a size 8 on the cover of a magazine. Let's put a woman on the cover who actually has like a natural body shape, or a woman who, you know, isn't starving herself to look a certain way. They had the opportunity to do that. They didn't do that. They started putting obese women on the covers of magazines and not selling it as these women are obese and still beautiful. They started selling it as health. I firmly believe that they did that on purpose because they knew it was controversial and they knew that there was going to be pushback, and it was only going to enhance the body shaming. And I'm a firm believer that you can be beautiful in any size. You can be a beautiful woman at any shape and size. I firmly believe that. You're not healthy at every shape and size. Now, women can be healthy at a pretty wide range of sizes. You don't have to be a fitness model in order to be healthy. And in fact, most fitness models, if we're really being honest, are doing very unhealthy things to look look the way that they look, because most of them are doing it like just for the image. A lot of them are using drugs, diet pills, and steroids, surgeries. Like a lot of fitness people that are promoting health, not all that healthy. And women can be healthy at a pretty wide range of sizes. Like most women, what your like healthy weight is going to be is going to vary on so many factors. It's going to vary on genetics and your height and your body build and, you know, how much muscle you have, how active you are. Like your healthy weight is going to vary. Like I don't believe it fits into like one little narrow size, or like that every woman should like weigh a certain size or fit into the same dress size. But let's be real, for most people, being obese is not healthy. Does that mean that you're a horrible person? No. Does that mean that you're ugly? No. Does that mean that you are unworthy of love? No. It's just not necessarily healthy. When the magazines and the media started to play off this, let's put obese women on the covers of magazines and call it health, they knew they were going to get pushback, and they knew they were going to get people weight shaming and body shaming, and they knew they were going to get a revolt. All it did was fuel the fat shaming people even more. And I gotta be honest with you, as someone who has been like just about every size range that has existed over the course of my lifetime, I've been overweight, I've been, you know, I've been skinnier, like I've been all over the map when it comes to weight. Like this point in time right now is the peak of weight shaming. Like I've never seen weight shaming this extreme as it is now. Now I'm sure social media has affected that in a certain way, but like people are more comfortable weight shaming now than they ever have been. And I firmly believe that it's because the media decided to take body positivity and make it into promoting obesity as health. Again, you can still be beautiful and obese, you are still worthy of love, you are still worthy of existence. It's no reason to shame people. But the fact that the media decided to run with obesity is health just fueled the fat shaming even more. And to be honest with you, most of the people I connected with when I was in the body positivity movement were not morbidly obese. And even when they were bigger people, like they were not living an incredibly unhealthy lifestyle. They weren't just pounding junk food. They were people who worked out regularly. They just were not naturally skinny. But unfortunately, the media wanted to push an agenda, and they wanted to push this obesity is health narrative to get everybody pissed off and to get everybody shaming overweight women, to like teach them to like get back in their place, because God forbid a woman be okay with being bigger. And now while most women, the vast majority of women, believe that they're heavier than they actually are, it made women who are a completely normal, healthy size, they just weren't skinny by our modern standards, it made them think that they must be obese and that they must be the person that everybody is shaming, and made them decide that they had to be skinnier and lose weight and do whatever they could to lose weight. Enter skinny talk. That's literally how this happened. It's because the media decided to take this body positivity movement and twist it around and make it not about women feeling good in their bodies, but by trying to convince everybody that body positivity was saying that obesity was health, when that's not the basis of the body positivity movement. That really is never what it was supposed to be about. I left the body positivity movement. When I say I left, like it's not like there's like a sign out sheet or anything like that, but I kind of stopped being a part of that community probably around 2020, and I don't even know if this is something I should even say, but I started feeling like the body positivity movement was moving in a direction that I wasn't comfortable with. Not because I don't believe in the same things that I believed when I started, in that women especially, I mean, I'm talking to women mostly, but you know, I would say the same thing for men, that you should love yourself regardless of your body shape and your body size, that you should love your body, you should treat your body in loving ways, and you shouldn't hate on your body just because you don't fit a mainstream beauty standard. I still believe all those same things. However, the body positivity movement really started to feel like it was getting toxic, and I really think it got hijacked. And I think it got hijacked for a lot of reasons. I started seeing like content creators that were showing up and making content, and like white content creators who were in the body positivity movement being like saying that they were like ashamed to show up in their white skin or something like that, because you know, that's when a lot of the racial tension stuff was going on. And I was just sort of like, okay, whoa, like if we're gonna have a movement that's telling everybody, particularly women, to like feel good in their own skin, and then you're gonna show up and say you're ashamed to show up in the skin that you're in, like, come on. Like, the body positivity movement shouldn't exclude anyone because of their skin color, regardless of their skin color, and I've always believed that. But again, it did start to feel like the body positivity movement started to become like a club, and like if you didn't fit their idea of what the body positivity movement should stand for, you weren't a part of the club. I just didn't like that at all, and so I kind of started moving out of that. It felt like this was supposed to be a movement of women inspiring other women to feel good about themselves, and then it started to become like, well, if you don't fit the look that we think you should have, like, you're not alternative enough. It kind of felt like it was like being gate kept. So that's kind of why I started to move away from that movement. My experience with the body positivity movement is that it really started to shift and didn't feel like it was actually like a positive space anymore. And not because I don't believe that people should be loved and show self-love and everything, no matter what your shape or size or age or skin color or anything like that. So I really do believe that that mentality, the way that the media started pushing body positivity and making it into this like obesity is health kind of thing, I think that that's how we got to skinny talk. And I actually had a video where I talked about this a while ago, and I predicted this was going to happen, but it literally now has a whole group of women, and I think it's expanding, moving into this very, very toxic diet culture lifestyle. And I say this because I've been in toxic diet culture before. So enter skinny talk. Skinny talk is, I highly recommend that you don't get onto skinny talk and you don't listen to it, because it's really, really terrible advice. And again, I say this as somebody who has dieted, who has lost weight. I say this as somebody that, you know, has tried all the fad diets, and I've been successful at some, I've been unsuccessful at others. Like, I say this as somebody who has been like on a weight loss journey up and down, like for literally my whole life. Like, my first diet was at 8 years old. So like, I was a lifetime member of Weight Watchers at age 11. I've been there, I've done that. I can tell you the advice that they're giving you on skinny talk is unhealthy. Is every single thing that they say unhealthy? Probably not, but it's really, really bad advice. I think some of it is rage bait. Like, I think some of it is extreme just to be rage bait, but like, it's really bad advice. First of all, it's like women that talk about like skinny girl mentality over like fat girl mentality, I guess is the way they word it. I don't like that term, but like, I'm gonna tell you right now, every girl I've ever known who was skinnier than me was not skinnier than me because she had a healthier lifestyle, because she worked out more than me, because she ate healthier than me. Every girl I've ever known who was skinnier than me was that way because she was naturally skinny. I have eaten healthier and been more active than every girl I've ever known who was skinnier than me. A lot of it's genetics. A lot of it is genetics. And here's the thing, I get it. Are there some people who are overweight just because they overeat, because they aren't active? Like, are there outside factors as to why someone can be overweight? Yes. We are not all meant to be the same size. If we were meant to be the same size, we'd all be born the same size. We're not all even born the same weight. We're not born the same length. Like, we're not born with the same body types. We gain weight in different places. We lose weight in different places. Like, we're all meant to look differently. So the idea that every single person is all supposed to be the exact same size is actually kind of like mental illness. Like, it's crazy that we think that everybody should have to look the same, because we literally aren't born the same. Like, we're not supposed to all look the same. You know, I mean, in my experience, like, if I lose a significant amount of weight, I get to the point where like my hip bones have no protection. Like, they literally are jutting out, like so pointy, because like I have like no body fat on my hips, but yet I still from the waist up look like a bigger girl. That's just how my body's built. I used to work with a girl who was like the opposite. Like, she had like bigger hips and a bigger butt and bigger thighs, and her lower body was bigger, and she would talk about like desperately trying to like thin that part of her body out, and like she would get to a point where she would lose enough weight so she would start to see results like in her hips and stuff, but like her upper body, she looked like a skeleton. Like, she looked sickly, and like how frustrating that was. That's just genetics. It just is what it is. Like, I have been at my biggest weight, my like biggest weight that I have ever been, like, and you can probably even see videos of me because it wasn't that long ago on here. Like, my face looked a lot fuller and stuff like that. I will tell you, the biggest that you've ever seen me on social media, I will tell you, my butt was tiny and I have no cellulite. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm not saying this to like show off, like I have a tiny butt, no cellulite. Like, I'm not saying that, but I've been on social media literally and had people tell me I was so big and so fat that like I was gonna die of diabetes tomorrow. Like, literally had people say that to me just based on like looking at me from like this, right? and I had no cellulite whatsoever. That's genetics, baby. That's all genetics. There are some women who are skinny, 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 skinny. They can eat whatever they want. They never gain weight. They don't gain an ounce. They are skinny. Society tells them that they are skinny perfection, and they're covered in cellulite. Again, it's genetics. It is what it is. That's all genetics. I can literally I can starve myself to the point where I'm dizzy all the time, and I'm still wearing a size 10. That's my body, okay? It is. There are other girls who can't gain weight because that's just their genetics. I say this because when people start talking about like skinny girl behavior and fat girl behavior, at the end of the day, the same thing that's gonna work for one person as far as like losing weight or getting in shape or something is not automatically gonna work for everybody, because we all have different bodies. We're all gonna lose weight differently. I saw somebody recently, I don't know who it was, but it was somebody online that was basically like, you know what, if you're pear-shaped, I don't wanna hear your glute routine. And I'm like, thank you, because I have done all the glute building exercises. My booty's still tiny. It's tiny. It is. And it's insane because at the end of the day, like I've said this before, like if I were to try to sell someone like a fitness program and like, hey, grow your boobs, get bigger boobs in 6 weeks or something like that, and I promote it to women who are flat chested and really self-conscious about their chest, and I'm like, yep, in 6 weeks you can look like me. In 6 weeks, and I give them a fitness routine and a diet plan and you know, all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, this is how you get this in 6 weeks, and all these flat-chested women start buying this program. Do you think that any of these A cup women are gonna walk out of this program in 6 weeks and they're gonna have a G cup? No, of course that's not gonna happen, right? But somehow when it comes to glutes, we think that that's possible. We think that women that have like no butts are gonna all of a sudden exercise and they're gonna change their entire body in 6 weeks and all of a sudden look like these pear-shaped women that naturally have big butts. Not gonna happen. Off on a rant. The skinny girl behavior and the fat girl behavior is insane. Because again, I've never known skinny women that had like better, healthier behavior than I did, even though they were skinnier than me. So like that's actually kind of insane. Basically, when people say that, when they talk about skinny girl behavior, it's ED. And that's not to say that people that are bigger don't have unhealthy eating habits. That they definitely can. But when you start pushing like skinny girl behavior, 99.9% of the time, it is just a cover up for ED. And I say this because I literally see women now that are like, it's not an eating disorder, it's a calorie deficit. It's not an eating disorder, it's a healthy lifestyle. It's not an eating disorder, I just think that being skinny is like the most important thing in my life and there's nothing wrong with that. You know why I know that that's eating disorder behavior? Because when I had an eating disorder, that's exactly what I said. I said those same things. If you talk to women that have eating disorders, if you know women that have had eating disorders, that I'm just in a calorie deficit. I just like to eat healthy. I'm just not hungry. I just decide to like go for a run when I feel hungry just so that I don't eat. Like I just want to be healthy. I don't want to stuff my face. Like I just think being skinny is important. Like I don't know why that's a problem. Like being skinny is just better. Like I feel better when I'm skinny. All those things. Yeah, that is exactly what women who are hiding eating disorders say. Am I saying that every woman that like tracks her calories or wants to eat healthy or is more active has an eating disorder? No. But that insisting on justifying that behavior is a sign of an eating disorder. And I know that because like I literally said those things to defend my eating disorder, and I know a lot of other women that did too. That's the reason why women call that out, because women like me, as an older woman, and I've said this before in other videos, I think it's the job of women who are older, who have been there, done that with these things in society, who have seen these toxic diet culture trends, and we've seen how this goes and we know how dangerous this is. I think it's important that we call it out. Some young girls are not gonna listen. I get that. I wouldn't have listened when I was that age. I would have probably done the same things that I did back then. But I do at times wish somebody had intervened and wish somebody had stepped in. I don't know if it would have changed anything, but you know, I wish there was someone like me trying to help. And you know, I feel like if it helps even one woman not have to go through the pain that I went through, then it's worth it. Now, another common trend I'm seeing on like skinny talk is the idea of telling women to stop eating and like just go for a walk or go for a run, or like anytime you feel hungry, just do something else. Like do some kind of exercise and don't eat. Telling people that they may need to eat a little bit less and telling people to be more active, not bad advice. It's not inherently wrong. It's not. If you are actually overweight and you actually are in a situation where you do need to lose weight for your health, eating a little bit less and moving your body more, good advice. However, telling people to anytime they're hungry to just go exercise is a really slippery slope. Because for one, you need to eat. Do you need to overeat? Do you need to eat in excess? Do you need to eat junk food? No. But your body needs food. Like, your body needs food to survive. Like, it needs food literally to function. And moving your body, absolutely a good thing. Moving your body is not a substitute for food. You need both. The human body needs both. And I can tell you, as someone who has done this before, someone who has been like, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go for a run, and then almost collapsed in the shower afterwards because she wasn't eating, and she let her blood pressure drop too low because she had no food in her system, because she was running instead of eating, because her body needed to eat. And again, it's an extreme case, but it's very easy to get to that extreme case. It's a slippery slope, especially when you're just throwing out things like, if you're hungry, just go for a run. It's like, you know what? Like, if you have eaten and you know that you just want to eat because you're bored, if you just want to eat because you're trying to distract yourself from something, or if you want to eat because you're having like an emotional problem and you just want to like emotionally eat or something like that, which I think is really important to like learn those cues in your body. It's a hard thing to do sometimes because most, especially women, are very disconnected from our bodies, which is why it's so important to like try to get to know those cues in your body. If your desire to eat is simply not because you're hungry, but just because you want to use food as something else, like an emotional pacifier, or, you know, as a distraction or replacement for boredom or something, then yeah, going for a run or exercising or working out or finding some other activity, completely good advice. But just telling people like, hey, if you're hungry, go for a run and don't eat, it's like, you need to check in with your body and find out, hey, have I eaten today? Like, have I eaten enough today? Have I given my body the fuel that it would need to even go for a run? Like, you need to check in with your body. And again, I say this as someone, I'll tell you, in college, I lost about 70 pounds. The way that I did it was, I mean, I kind of did intermittent fasting like before it was a thing, but really what it was is I was doing Weight Watchers, and it was like the point system. If any of you aren't familiar, it's like food is allotted points and you get a certain number of points in a day and you can eat whatever you want as long as it fits into those allotted points. It's like tracking your calories and tracking your macros and stuff like with shorthand. It's kind of thing, which isn't inherently bad. It's just that because there is no structure to it, you can fill yourself up with like a lot of empty calorie foods. You can end up like not getting the right amount of nutrients because like you're saving up your points for like things that may not be as healthy for you and things like that. Like, again, you could do it in a healthy way, and you could also manipulate the system so that you can still lose weight. Like, I definitely lost weight on it, but I was not exactly doing it the healthiest way. And I was in college, and I remember what I would do is I would eat barely anything. Like, it was literally like empty calorie, like 0 or 1 point foods and stuff like throughout the day. So I would save up all my food to eat in the evening because like that's when I was the most hungry, and that's when I could like sit down, eat a meal, or I get to eat something like really like decadent or something like that or whatever. So I was usually starving myself throughout the day. I remember looking back on it, it's so crazy, but I would be going to class and I would be so lightheaded and dizzy that I would literally be like praying literally as I was walking to class, like don't pass out, don't pass out, just let me get to my desk, just let me get to my desk, just let me get to my desk, just let me to the classroom, don't pass out, don't pass out. As soon as you get there, you can sit down, because like literally like the room would be spinning. That was how I lived. That's how I got through life, was I was lightheaded and dizzy all the time. And I lost weight. Everybody told me how great I looked. I got so many compliments, but in hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, I was so dizzy all the time. Like, I was so lightheaded. Like, it's actually insane looking back on that time period. So that's why when I see some of the advice on Skinny Talk and I see some of these girls like don't eat, just go for a run, or don't eat, just, it's like, oh my God, like that is such a slippery slope. It really is, especially if it's not backed up with actual advice on like, hey, you have to tune into your body and actually ask yourself like, have I eaten enough food today to even go for a run? Like, you need to have a certain amount of food in your system to survive. Then you need to have, if you are gonna exercise, you need a certain amount of food in your system to like actually fuel you doing an exercise. And again, like, I'm not anti-calorie deficit. I'm just saying it's so easy to just stop eating. When you get into that mentality, it can be so easy to just be like, oh, if eating less food is good, then eating even less food is better. And I can tell you again, as somebody, I don't like to say I was like addicted to exercise, but I took exercise way too far. Like, way too far. And I even have to catch myself now, because a part of my healing process, and if you've been following my content, you probably know my weight has shifted. I pretty much just film myself kind of from like the upper body and stuff. But in some of my videos, you can see that I was gaining weight and I lost a little bit of weight. I don't know how much because I don't get on a scale or anything. Basically, when I got to the point where I had gotten myself like into the fittest shape of my life and stuff, doing some really extreme dieting and exercise and stuff, I realized I couldn't continue. Like, I'd gotten so extreme that like I just couldn't continue that way. And I was still binge eating, but I was in like a binge starvation mode. I never like purged necessarily, but like I was in like a binge starvation pattern for sure. I always hesitate talking about healing this process because I don't want anybody to try to copy me, because like I made the choices that I made to try to heal and to heal from my disordered eating and things like that. I know I've emulated a lot of people thinking that I would get the same results, and it wasn't always the best choice. So I don't say any of this so that any of you will like copy me or anything. But I decided, and this was around the time that like Stephanie Buttermore was doing like her all in, and I didn't necessarily do exactly what she was doing, but I just decided that I was just gonna like kind of take the reins off of my restriction and just like let myself eat whatever. And if I'm being totally honest, it wasn't like completely non-restrictive. But I did actually I read a book. Oh my God, I wish I could remember the name of the book. I don't remember it. But I remember in the book reading like, what is the food that you're terrified to eat? Like, and what's the first thing that comes into your head? And like eat that food to like try to get over your like food fear. And the first thing that came to my mind was a banana. A banana. It's a natural fruit. But I was terrified of eating a whole banana because I was convinced it was like too many carbs. It was too much sugar. Like, you gotta limit your fruit. Like, it's junk food. Like that kind of, like, that's how much I was in that mentality. So I started like eating a banana. Like every day I would have at least one banana. So it was like I had to get rid of that fear. I let myself eat until I was full, which I had never done before in my life. I always would like restrict my meals, and then I would let myself get so hungry that then I would end up binging, and then I would eat until like beyond fullness. Like, I'd eat till I was in pain. I have other videos where I talk about my binge eating stuff, so I'm not gonna get into that here, but again, like, I just took the reins off. I didn't want to gain weight. I did not want to gain weight, but I had tried to heal my eating disorders. I tried to heal my binge eating. I tried to do it without gaining weight, and it just didn't work. Doing that for a while, I did put on a lot of weight. I didn't love putting on weight. I don't like being overweight. I will admit that. I firmly do not like being overweight. I mean, if for no other reason than simply because I can't buy clothes. These don't fit into clothes when I'm at my heaviest weight. Like, I literally cannot buy clothes. At the end of the day, I knew that that's what needed to happen. I also, like, I was never completely inactive. I've never been inactive in my life. I've always been like an active person. Like, I wasn't into like sports or anything because that just wasn't I'm not that sociable, but I've always been an active person. But I really scaled back. I didn't do any cardio. Like, I really scaled back. And I'm not saying I did everything right. It was a long process. It's been a long process over the past few years. It's been about like four years. I am slowly working towards like my healthy weight. I definitely like overshot the weight that I was really like was my healthy weight. Even though, I mean, I've been monitored by a doctor and I'm not that off, like, as far as health goes. Like, my health is not terrible. I'm also like, as much as I say like I took the reins off of eating, I still like, I really limit my processed foods. I love to cook, and one of the things that I have been doing is actually like baking and enjoying the process of baking. I'll just shorthand it for you because I am at a point in my life, and I hear a lot of people talking about this with like Ozempic or like other kind of like appetite suppressants and stuff, which I have not done. I don't intend to do. I don't want to do any of those kind of drugs. I have my thoughts on those. I think they're going to cause a lot of problems long term, and my stance on Ozempic and the pharmaceuticals is like, look, if you've sat down with your doctor and you think that this drug is like, we're talking life and death here, and you need this drug in order to save your life, I'm all for it. I think if you are taking one of these drugs just to like lose a little bit of weight, the fact that doctors would even prescribe these things to people who are not even like medically obese is insane to me. That could lead me down a whole path of like anti-pharmaceutical industry, but that's a whole thing. But because I have heard a lot of people talk about like getting on some of these like Ozempic type drugs and stuff and like that curing their food noise, I don't get food noise anymore. And like it's literally the first time in my life, my entire life, even since I was a child, that I don't have food noise. I healed that myself. Like I did that myself. Like I am a firm believer that healing these things is within you. Like it's within you. You don't need some doctor to prescribe this stuff. And I'm not saying it's easy, but like the skinny talk trend and the starving yourself thing, not gonna help. It's not. Starving yourself or guilting yourself into not eating and stuff, that's not what did it. That's not what healed my food noise. That's not what stopped my binge eating. It's not. It was taking away those food rules, and it was not living in the fear of gaining weight. Even though I didn't want to gain weight, I didn't. I mean, I would prefer to be skinny, but I knew that I needed to gain weight in order to heal from my disordered eating. Like I had to do it. Even now, like that I'm kind of, like I gained the weight and now I'm kind of like adjusting my body. Like I went over what was a healthy weight and I'm kind of adjusting my body to like a healthier weight. And even now, like I'm doing it slowly because I firmly believe that when you are making changes in your body, they have to happen slowly. I think it's better to happen slowly. I've seen women too that will come to me like, well, I've lost all this weight, now I have all this hanging skin. I don't really tend to have that problem because I do things slowly, and that's the key. And I understand like the desire to get it done quickly and to have it happen quickly, but it's just so much better and healthier to have it happen slowly. Especially because like for me, I noticed like I'm now, for a long time I just didn't do any kind of like cardiovascular exercise. I just cut that out because I was doing so much of it that I had to just stop. And like now I'm letting myself do more cardio. I don't really love to do cardio, but at the end of the day, my body feels better when I do it. However, I have to catch myself sometimes because there are times when I start slipping back into that old mentality of like, oh, well, a half hour is making me feel this good. So like maybe I should do 45 minutes or maybe I should do an hour, or like, you know, maybe I should do 2 cardio sessions a day. And like I start to get into this like, if this is good, then maybe this much will be better. And I have to remind myself like, hey, your whole life is not just about getting skinny, or pushing yourself too much too fast is not going to get you long-term results. And like I've actually had to like keep myself from like falling down that rabbit hole of like obsessively exercising constantly. I've had to force myself sometimes to have rest days because that was something that I am not good at doing. It's like, well, if a little bit of exercise is good, then a lot of exercise will be better. And like that kind of like obsessive behavior, like I've had to scale back from that. My body is much happier with me when I do that, which is why when I see some of these like the skinny talk girls that are like pushing this like move more, do more, always do more, for some people who are completely inactive, like getting up off their butts and doing something, that's a good thing. It's good motivation. For a lot of us, myself included, it's such a slippery slope to get into some really obsessive behavior that can get negative. You can exercise too much. You absolutely can exercise too much. It can go too far. And I don't say this to discourage anybody from exercising, because I realize, like, especially if we're talking about America as a country, we're very inactive. So most people probably do need more exercise, but you can take it too far. And it's important to not take it too far. And when you start getting into this mentality of like more is always better, it can be a slippery slope. And also it's the same way with like eating and the idea that it's like, okay, maybe you do need to be in a calorie deficit, but like how much of a calorie deficit? And it's so easy to get into this, well, if this much of a calorie deficit can make me lose weight, what if I get into this much more of a calorie deficit? And oh, well, if that gets me skinnier, then let's get into more of a calorie deficit. And the next thing you know, you're not eating anything. And again, is everybody going to go to that extreme? No. But there are enough people, particularly women, that do fall into that category that we need to be more mindful. And again, I'm not trying to, you know, discourage anybody who's trying not to overeat or anybody who's trying to get to a healthy weight to like not make healthier choices with your foods, but it's a slippery slope. And I really feel like when you watch some of these like skinny talk videos, a lot of this like diet culture stuff, it is such a slippery slope. And when you do have someone who is prone to things like eating disorders or, you know, even like obsessive compulsive behaviors, I think like some of these behaviors, like people can really fall into some dangerous habits. And I say this as somebody who has been that person. So I'm speaking from experience here. I can tune out a lot of the negative comments because I get it. Like I've been on social media for a long time. I did stand-up comedy for a long time, so I'm used to hecklers. Like I can tune out negative comments and stuff. Like it is what it is. Like, and I realize that people that come online just to like hate on people, it's like, that's a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of me. And like I think on a mentally healthy day I can handle that. As someone who is recovering from ED, when you get people that come online and will see me at the weight that I am now and will say things, it's always men, who will be like, why don't you exercise? Or why don't you join a gym? Or like, why don't you eat less or put down the donuts? It's like, well, I haven't eaten a donut. I don't even know when the last time I ate a donut was. It's probably more than 20 years since I've eaten a donut. The fact that like I can eat a cookie now, because they'll be like, put down the cookie, stop eating cookies. It's like, I didn't eat birthday cake on my birthday for years. Or if I did, I would make some kind of like faux sugar-free something or other, whatever, because I just wouldn't let myself have a regular birthday cake. And if I did eat something that was like a regular cake, I would literally have to eat the whole thing because my body was not used to eating actual food, that it would just, I would just obsess over it and I'd have to like eat the whole thing. The fact that I'm at a point now, like I love baking. I can bake cookies now, which I love to do. I can eat a cookie and like have cookies in my house and not obsess over having to eat all the rest of the cookies. I'm 45 years old and this is the first time in my life that I've ever lived like that, even since childhood. If my mother ever had cookies in the house, I would get obsessed with the idea of like, there are cookies, when do I get cookies again? And the fact that I'm now in a place where like I can eat a cookie and I'm okay with eating it. I'm not terrified of eating it. I also can eat one and not become obsessed with having to eat all of them, because I can just be like, you know what? I can have one whenever I want. And it's that freedom. When I start seeing women, especially young women, that are setting themselves up for so much of this toxic diet culture behavior that I know I've suffered with my whole life, it's just, it's heartbreaking to me. And it annoys me when I get people who will come to my content and be like, you should exercise, you should go to a gym. It's like, I work out every day. I do. And I know I don't have to justify that to anybody, it's nobody's business, but I do work out every day. I actually have to stop myself from working out several times a day. That's just my mentality. Like, it's like, okay, if a little bit of this is good for me, then I'm gonna do a lot. And I have to stop myself from doing several workout sessions a day. Like, it's something I have to stop myself from doing because I know it's such a slippery slope. When I see some of this like diet culture content online, it just breaks my heart because I know, it's like I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending. Like I know how this is gonna turn out for these girls and I don't want it to happen for them. I want better for them than what I had to deal with. I talked about this in other videos. First of all, as I've said many, many times, feminine energy and how feminine you are has absolutely nothing to do with your body type. It has nothing to do with your body shape or size or anything like that, or age or your skin color or anything. Feminine energy is an energy. It's within you. So if any guy tries to tell you that being overweight isn't feminine enough, bullshit. They don't know what they're talking about. In fact, being feminine is actually embracing the body that nature made for you, because feminine energy is nature. So embracing the body that you have naturally, and while also treating your body in loving ways, which generally speaking is going to be treating it in healthy ways. Massively restricting your diet, having an overly structured diet, pushing your body way too hard is not feminine energy. Doing anything that is not conducive to your natural body, it's not gonna be feminine energy. So this idea that like you need to be skinny to be feminine, or you need to have some kind of certain body type or shape or something to be feminine, BS. When it comes to men and having an opinion about women's bodies, I think men should just stop talking and can have preferences. They can prefer a certain body type or certain look or whatever. That's on them. They can prefer whatever they want. Men never have to say what their preferences are. Just pursue your preference and leave everybody else alone. If you are a man who is interested in a woman being as thin as possible and having no body fat on her and being as lean as possible, I would wonder if you actually want a woman, because women's bodies, generally speaking, are designed to be softer. I'm not talking about like a certain body shape or size, and if you want to be a lean cut athletic woman, whatever, go for it, like no judgment. But if you're a man and your sole preference in a woman is just like as lean and like cut and like no body fat as possible, I highly wonder if you want a woman. I find it so ironic. I thought about this the other day. It was like this weird epiphany that we are so offended by body fat on a woman. And I'm not talking about excessive body fat. I'm not talking about somebody who is at a weight that is damaging their health. We all should have a certain level of body fat on us. Women actually need more body fat on them than men do. And don't come for me with the glorifying obesity. I'm not talking about obesity. I'm talking about just like having body fat on you. If you don't have body fat, you're dead. But we're so offended as a culture about body fat. Like, I see people online that are like so offended by the fact that myself, or like I see it with other women, have like a naturally large chest, but yet fake boobs are completely societally acceptable and actually praised in our society, as if like lipo in the middle, they have to have the fake stuff because like the fake stuff is less offensive than a woman having natural shape, because if a woman has natural shape, that means that it's body fat, and we're like so horribly offended by the idea of a woman having any kind of body fat on her, even if it's just like she's carrying it very naturally in very natural places for a woman to be carrying body fat. It's so twisted. I do think that corn culture is a factor, but I think it's also this idea that we're just like so freaked out by the idea of a woman actually having any kind of body fat on her, which is insane. Again, I'm not talking about glorifying obesity or women who are in a situation who are having medical issues because of their excess weight. I see women a lot who are like, I just want to be skinny. Being skinny is my whole life, and wanting to be skinny and desiring to be skinny is my whole life. It's all I want. And I'll see other women like, yes, finally someone said it. It's like, can we be real? Women wanting to lose weight, women wanting to be thin, not a new thing. You saying you want to be skinny is not something that's going to get shamed. Like, are some people going to say like, no, you don't need to get skinny, or like, oh, you don't need to lose weight, or something, or you look beautiful, or whatever, like, you know, but like women are not like massively getting shamed for saying that they want to be skinny. But as someone who has obsessed over her weight for her whole life and been thinner and been bigger, I get women that will say things like, my life is just better now that I'm skinny. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And I say this as somebody like, yeah, I like a lot of aspects about being thinner. Are there certain areas of life that are easier when you're thinner? Yes. However, and this is something that women have to know, you have to understand this, because I wish I had gotten this through my head. It took me so many times of losing large amounts of weight to learn this lesson, but losing weight does not solve all your problems. It doesn't. And I was so convinced, I would be so convinced that like, oh, if I could just get to this weight, or I could just get to this size or something, that like my problems would be solved. Like everything would be good. That doesn't happen. And when you get to that place, like you get to that weight, first of all, it's never going to be good enough. That's the unfortunate thing about losing weight, is that you can get to your goal weight or your goal size. You will never feel like it's enough. You will always feel like you have to do more. And especially when you get people complimenting you, like you look great, you look wonderful, you start to feel like, oh, well, maybe if I lost more weight, I'd look better. Like, it's so easy to fall down that path to dangerous territory. Very easy to do. Like, I was convinced that the reason I didn't have a great relationship, why I didn't have my dream job, why I didn't have my dream life, like, was all because of my weight. And then I lost the weight, and all those problems were all still there. Losing weight did not solve any of them. I also was hungry. So I didn't have any coping mechanisms to deal with the problems that were all still there. I mean, I wish back then that I had the tools that I have now as far as the coping mechanisms and stuff, because I do think that there's a lot more access for people to learn how to work through stuff, and there's so much more self-help and stuff out there than there was like back when I was first starving myself to thinness. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's why my weight like went up and down so much throughout my life, is because I kept thinking that if I could just lose the weight, that every other problem would be solved, and it doesn't get solved. Here's the thing, I need to do a lot more than the average woman in order to get thin, to be a societally acceptable body size. It's genetics. I'm not making an excuse for this at all, because I've absolutely done those things for sure and lost the weight. And it's not like I'm complaining about the work that I've had to do, but that takes time. And when you tell someone that has to do more, you have to track more efficiently, you have to be much more careful with how you eat, so you probably have to prep your foods yourself, because you're not going to be able to just go out to eat or eat pre-prepared foods or things like that. You have to do a lot more physical activity than the average person in order to get to that skinny size. It takes up a lot of your time. and people don't pay you to do that. So somebody who is more naturally skinny, maybe they don't have to do anything or they have to do a lot less to be skinny, they have the gift of a lot more time on their hands. They have more time to socialize. They have more time to get work done. They have more time to study. They have more time to do all those things. So they're just gonna achieve more in life. I mean, granted, they have to actually do those things and some of them won't be motivated, and that's fine. But the reality is, like, we all have 24 hours in a day. And if you're telling somebody who has to do more to be in a societally acceptable body size, they need to do more because they have to be that size, and they have to do more than the people who are naturally that size, you can't expect them to do all the same things that everybody else is doing, because they either have to dedicate themselves to doing those things, or they just have to live in a bigger body size. And it's not an excuse, it's just a reality of things. And again, this is not like an excuse for people to just like fly off the handles and eat whatever they want and, you know, just sit around on the couch all day. Like, I'm not talking about like making excuses for like really unhealthy behavior. It's just the reality of things. And I think at some point we need to look at the reality that, again, we're not all the same. We're not all meant to look the same. I've said this before in other videos that, you know, as someone who's dated at a bigger body size and a smaller body size, I can tell you right now, dating at a smaller body size, I got more attention from men, got asked out more, but it didn't improve the quality of men that I was meeting, because I still didn't feel good within myself. Like, I still hadn't healed my stuff. Just losing the weight is not going to automatically get you the dream relationship. And I'm not saying this is universal, but this was my experience, where if I did date a guy when I was thinner, like I couldn't get past the question of like, would he love me if I gained weight? Because I think once you've been bigger, when you do lose the weight, you always know that there's a possibility that you might gain weight. You don't want to gain weight. You don't necessarily want to put weight back on, but you know there's a possibility because you know your body's capable of that. If you get yourself to be like in a skinny weight because you think you're going to get a better guy, you're always going to live in that, would he love me if I put on weight? If you're with a guy and he's only with you because he wants you to look a certain way or have a certain body at this time, and like that's all he wants from you, not gonna work in a long-term relationship. I mean, for one, he's just objectifying you. It's not you, it's just your look. You know, I mean, if he really only wants you at that certain body size, he's not worth having. I don't care if he's a high value man, so to speak. He doesn't have any value for you because your body's gonna change. I mean, whether you gain weight or you don't gain weight or something, your body's gonna change. And if you're with a guy who only wants you because you've lost weight, I suppose for some women, maybe they can detach. Maybe they can cut themselves off from like the emotional component and just be like, okay, I have a guy. I don't care if he just wants me for how I look now or anything, like, because maybe she's just using him for something. I don't know. I mean, if it's a straight up kind of transactional deal, like if that's your thing, I mean, I can't do that. I'm a Cancer moon. I'm way too emotional. There's no way I could pull that off. But like, that's something that for me, like the first time I got into a relationship after losing like a large chunk of weight, I so wanted to ask him if he would still love me if I put on weight. And I realized the reason why I wanted to ask him that so badly was because I already knew the answer, and it was no. I can't be in a relationship with someone like that. I can't. Whether I'm thin or whether I'm bigger or whether I'm not. And it's not because I want to gain weight. It's not because I would want, you know, a guy to just like let me gain 100 pounds and like not care or anything. I mean, obviously, if I started to do things that were very out of character for me, or I started living really unhealthy or something, I would want someone that would care about me and would want to see me be healthy and would want to encourage me to try to be a healthy person in the same way that I would do that for him if like he started living a really unhealthy lifestyle, whether, you know, it was because he gained weight or something like that. Like I would want to support him in trying to be healthy and live as long as possible and things like that. But if you're only with somebody because you only want to be with them because they look a certain way, like for you, it's a recipe for a bad relationship. Like you're never going to be able to have like a truly healthy relationship if that's the mentality that you're in. Yeah, if you are finding yourself feeling like you are falling into a lot of body image issues and a lot of like this toxic diet culture push and everything, if it's triggering you, which I know for someone who's, again, spent the last 4 years trying to heal from my eating disorders, and I've come so far and I'm taking it like one day at a time and things like that. If you're finding yourself getting caught up in that, I highly recommend you check out my Recovering Pick Me Girl guided journal. If you're thinking like, well, I'm not a pick me girl, but like, again, a lot of this is about like approval and validation from society, which is the reason why we get caught up in the toxic diet culture to begin with. There is a chapter in here on body image stuff, as well as my dark feminine Energy Guided Journal. Your dark feminine energy is about, you know, breaking free from convention and being your own woman. Highly recommend you check those out. Details are in the description box below, along with links to my courses, masterclasses, and all my social media links. If you have found yourself on Skinny Talk or the body positivity movement, or, you know, have any thoughts on any of the topics I talked about in this video and want me to talk in another video more about this kind of stuff, or share your story or anything, let me know. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you, and I love your video suggestions. And honestly, like, any engagement on this channel helps to boost it in the algorithm so more people can get this message. And I really think this message of like, breaking free from diet culture and like fighting back on skinny talk and things like that, I think is so important, especially for young women, so we don't just keep pushing this women's bodies as trends and women getting as skinny as possible, which is really just a way of women trying to shrink themselves so that they don't take up space in society. You know, any engagement really does like push this message. So be sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment below with your thoughts, because I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.